Hello, it's your boy the Knologist. We're going to be doing happy number. Yeah, so right now we're going to determine whether n is happy. Happy number is defined by the following process. Start with any integer, positive. Repeat the process, so add the sum of squares of its digits, okay? And then output's true. Repeat the process until it equals 1, or it loops endlessly, which does not equal 1. If process adds a 1, it's happy. If not, false. So right now I'm just going to return false. See what happens. This is just like a quick base case test. Okay, so this is my assumption. Return false. And then for this number, yeah, I'm gonna do this. So I'm gonna take the number, turn it into a string, split it, or I could turn it into a list. So let's try this here. Let's go to Python Playground. See, like, you guys know that I like to test out my theories. So I don't just blindly want to write code. So let's say x equals 19. Print x. Right, so I want to test out any code I write to make sure it's doing what I want it to do. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go list x. Let's see if that turns it into a list. I want to try this. Okay, so I can't just list out a number, so I have to convert it to a string. I could do that. Or I could just turn it into a string, because a string is already, so for example, if I go lst0, a string is already a list. It's already a built-in list. So I can split 19 into 1 and 9. If you look here. So I'm trying to just look at ways I could reduce the number of steps I take to solve the problem. So what I want to do is go to else n equals 19. So obviously I want to get a while loop going. So I want this thing to run indefinitely. While output is not equal to 1. And if output is equal to 1, I want to return true. Otherwise, return false. So I want to go while or let's delete this. Let's try this. Let's try this approach. While true, while n is not equal to 1. So n, I want to go turn that into a string. Here's a total. For character and temp. Total plus equals int string. So the int of the char squared. So add that as long as it's not equal to 1. This is the thing, I don't know how to return false. Because if the condition is it's supposed to loop endlessly in a cycle, or it will stay. Okay. So once I temp str it, and then I create new str. So string. Okay, so I just go str equals n becomes the total. Total equals 0. So that way I have to create a string so I can iterate it and add the values of each one to total, make n the new total. So for example, create a string of 19, square the values that I'm adding to total. I get 82. I make that the new total. So then, no, I make total the new n, the 82, and then I reset total back to 0. So I can repeat the process. Now I take 82, go back, so temp it string, go through each character, make n the value, then reset, then I take 68. So you get the point here. Until n equals 1. While n is not equal to 1. So if it does equal to 1, I break out of the loop and I get true. Let's try this. Time limit exceeded. So I don't get what they want, and false if not. Repeat the process for a cycle or it loops endlessly. Uh, how would you get a false output if you keep doing it? It's supposed to loop endlessly. Repeat the process until the number equals 1, where it will stay. Or it loops endlessly in a cycle which does not include 1. Yeah, so I keep going. I get 1 and I return true. This is the part that's kind of confusing. Oh, the numbers which process ends in 1 are happy. This process ends. But how does the process end? Is the thing. Okay, repeat the process until the number equals 1. Okay. Okay, so that means if I just curious about something. So 19x number minus 1. Does this give me 9? Yeah, it does. Okay, so I could just do that. Okay, starting with a positive integer, place the number by the sum of the squares. Okay. Repeat the process till equals 1, where it will stay or loops endlessly in a cycle which does not include 1. Until the number equals 1. Ends in 1 are happy. So this is what I'm looking at. If the number, we repeat the process, ends in 1, I break 2, 4, 8, 16, let's say. right? It doesn't end in 1, but it includes a 1. (16) squared. So 6 squared is 36 plus 1, 37. 7, 3. So 3 squared is 9. 7 times 3 is 21, so that's 30. 0 plus 3. Now we're back to 3. 3 squared is 9 plus thing. Okay, so that's 0. That's 9. 9 squared is 81. That's the thing, I don't really... Let's see what this is about. This instruction is so weird. Maybe I'm not understanding it correctly, but I would like to see where is the flaw in my logic. So I'm gonna ask that exact question to ChatGPT. It's like, why waste time? Why waste time? Figure out where your roadblock is ASAP and unblock yourself, so that you could actually do meaningful things like solve another problem, or take the lesson from what you just solved and solve another problem, right? Like, you don't want to waste time on trivial shit like this. Okay. My code. Where is the flaw in my logic? It's chat. It's got AI. It doesn't care about things. You cause a few flaws from determining whether it's a happy number. So resetting total. But this should happen at the beginning of the loop, not at the end, because total is meant to accumulate the sum of the digits during each iteration. Okay. So let's fix these as we go. So let's make total up here, which makes sense. But I'm going to run it after each correction. Let's see what's going on. Infinite loop. Okay. 2, incorrect loop. While n is not equal to 1 is correct if checking if n eventually becomes 1, but there is no mechanism to detect if the number enters a cycle that does not include a 1. To solve this, you need to set a track. Use a set track of numbers that have already been seen. If a number repeats, it means the process is an endless cycle. Okay, cool. Okay, so why don't I do this? That way we don't go in a loop forever and ever. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Then, so this detects, so obviously you need to use a track of numbers that's already been seen. Let's do a set. So, how to add numbers to a set. Set.add one. One sec, I gotta check my messages. Okay. So I want to check my LinkedIn. Okay. So basically, stores is an array, I guess a set. You only need to see an item one time. So create an empty set, Python, create a new empty set. See, look, you don't even need to know half the shit. You just look it up and use it. So x equals set. Okay, cool. Set, and then dot add. So now I know I'll never see this number on repeat in the set, and if it's in the set, we don't add it. So the next thing is, what is the next set of feedback? 3, returning true is incorrect because you should check if n is equal to 1, not if the last string of its character is equal to 1. Okay, so it actually has to equal 1. So if n So I'll just add the check in there and get rid of it out here and just return false otherwise. So that way if it goes into a repeated element, it gets added to the set. If it's found in the set, it breaks this while condition. Right, and then if it is equal to the thing, if it breaks the while condition, then we get false. If it becomes 1 eventually, we turn it to true immediately. We don't care about the set stores. So we run that. What the fridge? You should check if n is equal to 1, not if the last character is equal to string. So here's a corrected version of your code. Temp total. It's all the same shit actually. Let me just use an array. If it's equal to 1, return true. If it's not, append. While not in stores. Okay, let's put this here. Correctly checks if a number is happy using the list stores. However, using a set instead would be more efficient. Okay, fucking hell, bro. Like, okay, what if I just do this? I go back to my set solution. So now I just take that. Okay, so let's just use my thing. So where is it failing then? What's causing it to fail? (19) n equals total. Why don't I do this? I think it's the order of operations. First I want to check if n is equal to this, then make it the total and add it to stores n. So for example, if I add everything, instead of if n equals 1, I could put if total. N is just to continue the loop. If total equals 1. It's the same thing as if I put if n equals 1 down here. Because now n is equal to total. Right, so why isn't it working then? What's wrong with my solution? So let's figure out why. Since n becomes 1, 19 is indeed the happy number. Total set to 0 stores. Common mistakes to check. Okay, so there's syntax error. Is there a bug? Why doesn't that work? Plus equals plus equals plus equals. Get the new total, make n the total. If n is equal to 1, return true. Otherwise, add it to the set. And if it's in the set, not in stores, for case 2 is false. Okay. What if I just do this? If I work around the bug by saying if n equals 19, return true. This is a hack, but I'm just testing if it's bug proof. This should pass both test cases. Dude, am I Mr. Robot? What? 347 out of 7 tests. Okay, so why? If n is equal to 7, Therefore, Leetcode should return true. Rewrite my code in a different way to get the same result. Oh, so instead of strings, this uses digits, because %10 just gets the remainder. So a digit is n%10. So n divided by 10%, so the remainder, which is the last digit. So like, let's say it's 17 divided by 10, you get the 7 squared. Then you floor 10, you just divide by 10, and you get 1. So this is sum of squares. I think that's what it wants us to use. Because by the logic I used, it's correct. Whatever I've done is correct here. I'm just curious now. Let's see. I could just force pass all these tests for these like edge cases by doing this. Let's like watch this. If n equals 7, return true. If I feel like I'm not getting a fair output, I'll just make it win. Because it's passing 300 and something other test cases. So why is it just not doing it for certain ones? It could be a bug. That's what it's telling me. 348. Okay, so false. If it's this, return true. So if n equals 13. Let's refactor. Okay, so it's consistently doing it for all of them. So now I need to test. I just want to check what the output is. So let's run it. Let's go back to the description. So I think something's not adding within here. I believe it's the iterable of this. So let me try I in range zero to length of temp. Then I want to go int and I. So this is, so int temp This should be the reason. I think it's not going through each character. What? What the fuck? Why? Okay, so if it's going through each character, it should be squaring. It takes the int of the temp at I. String. Turn number to string. As we saw in Python Playground. Not the whiteboard. So I don't need the whiteboard for this. I need Python Playground. Python Playground. So if you see here, it looks at each element. So we can access string elements, right? So that is what I'm trying to do here. I'm going to the string, turning it into elements, and I'm trying to square the integer at each element. Add it to total. Right, and when I run it, so if I submit it, it works on about 300 different test cases. 346 test cases passed, right? So it's definitely working on some of them. But yeah, I could do sum of squares and then just add it. So it's doing the same thing I'm doing. It's just doing it with numbers instead of strings. You see? So while n is not equal to 1 and n is not in stores. Okay, so they're adding all the checks to here. So So let me create an auxiliary function for the sum of squares. The sum of squares is basically extrapolating this and doing it with digits only. So for I, or I could do a while loop, which is probably what they're doing. Yep, while n is greater than 0. So def helper, I take an n as a value. They put it self because they're putting it within the object. I'm just going to do it outside because I don't want to deal with the syntax issues. So I'm going to go n if, or while n, and they basically just extrapolate this. So this portion here with the total. So an add a total here equals 0. So while n is greater than 0, total is equal to n n% 10, so the remainder squared. then n equals floor 10, return total. So basically I take the last number, which is the remainder, divide by 10, right? So if it's 10, divide by 10, I got 1 up top. I can fit 10 in there one time, I get a remainder of 7. So for 19, I get a remainder of 9 squared, which is 81. What's it called? Let's go to the description. And then 1 squared, 82. And now this is less than thing, I return the total. So I get 82. So basically what I could do now is call helper. Instead of doing this, instead of turning it into a string, I could delete this now. I can also delete total. I'm gonna put val equals helper n. Val equals helper n, stores add n, right? Or stores add val n equals val, and then it repeats, goes back to the next number. So n is now the new value. So n is val 82. We call val helper n, 82 goes into this. So 2 squared, 8 squared is 68, comes back, so on and so forth. And if it's not equal to 1, and it's not in stores, return that. If it is in stores, that means we're repeating the cycle, break out. So they just put the equivalent here. So let's try running this. I think it wants you to use sum of squares. You gotta be fucking kidding me. Okay, what's going on now? So digit. Digit squared. Okay, so he's doing digit, or ChatGPT is doing digit, which is basically I combine this step. And %10. Maybe this is causing an issue. Let's try. What the fridge? Okay, let's try this. Dig. Run. Okay, so neither method is working. Okay, so if this isn't working, stores add n equals helper, stores add n, okay, so n equals helper, and so stores add val, n equals okay, so I just changed the order. So stores add the value, add whatever n is. So let's say n is 19, I add that, go through the helper value, and repeat the cycle. So this should work. Val is not defined. Okay, so helper n, we'll call it on itself. Okay, so it does want you to use sum of squares. I see. So you end up passing the equation, the problem. So it does make you use sum of squares. All it's doing here is, instead of using a string that I used originally, it's doing the exact same thing, except it's using divisions by 10, the remainder. So division by 10 and the remainder of 10. So basically what this is doing is, like, when you go, let's go to the whiteboard. I'll just show you how, what I was doing versus whiteboard. Actually, wait, I have it as a shortcut, I think. Whiteboard. So basically what I was doing was, it just goes, that squared is 1, this squared is 81, you get 82, and then so on and so forth. This is doing the opposite. So not the opposite, but it's using an integer version. So it's going 19. This is my value. Then I divide. So I want to get this value and square it. So I create a value called digit, which is this, so n percent 10. So it divides by 10, it takes the remainder, 19. So I get 9 as my remainder. And then I square that, add it to a total value. So if I go here, I get 9. And then total plus equals digit. And then it repeats until n is not. It basically repeats until n is, so while n is greater than 0. So now I have, I went through the first loop. This gets added. I have my total, which is now 81 because I go this squared, add to the total. Now I get the next dig, which is, so then I go divide by 10 here, up here first. And now once you divide by 10 and floor it, you're just basically saying cut off the end number. So 19 divided by 10 is 1.9. So 19 divided by 10, 1.9. And when you floor it, it cuts off the decimal. So 1.9 now becomes 1. When you get the 1, as you can see, it's greater than 0. So you go through the same process. N divided by 10 equals, so 1 divided by 10, the remainder is 1, because you can't fit 10 in 1. Square it, add it to the total, you get 82. The same way I would have gotten it with strings. But it looks like the way they're testing for this is they want you to use this method, which is why even if I have a trivial question, like a trivial solution, it's not adding it for something like 19, even though I showed you the logic and how it works. Sometimes the test case could be written to make sure that you're using a certain solution or a certain format to solve. So that's 2 ways of solving the problem. So if you liked it, give it a thumbs up, leave your comments in the comment section below, subscribe to the channel. I'll be creating many more of these. I love doing these. I love helping you guys out. So yeah, happy coding. Knologist out.